but everybody's talking about it. They're still talking about it. What transpired a little less than 24 hours ago, the flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever by Chennedy Carter of the Chicago Sky. Then the aftermath of what happened, the post-game press conference. Angel Reese, you just heard Isaac say, ended up being docked $1,000 for not being available. Yet she has now become a major part of the story because of her actions and her responses to the hard fouls that were delivered to Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever. And it's funny because I was on the air about an hour after this all happened, and then the post-game show came, the post-game interviews happened, and we were playing some of those back. And then I had a chance to kind of sit on this, Kerry, and I feel like any rookie has some sort of hazing's not the word, but you have to go through some sort of ritual to be
rite of passage.
Yeah, rite of passage.
Yeah.
Perfect phrase. And now it's gotten to the point where I think it's gone too far, and I think many people feel that way. And it's one of those things, you know it when you see it. And I felt that was the foul yesterday that was committed on Caitlin Clark by Chennedy Carter. Like we've gone too far now in terms of where we are in trying to have Caitlin Clark have her rite of passage in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point of borderline obsession with trying to be the one to break Caitlin Clark. And I think that's where it's heading to right now. And until the WNBA steps in, or for the matter of fact, her teammates step in to show that they're with her and they're riding with her and have some type of loyalty to her being on their team and the organization. Obviously she's new and she's trying to integrate herself into the locker room and into the WNBA, but it's time for her team and her organization to step up and stand in front of her and say that we got her back, and go out there and be physical back with those other teams and show that they have some backbone and some adoration for their teammate, because it's getting to the point now where she seems like it's Caitlin Clark against everybody. And I don't mean just her opponents, and I mean her teammates as well, which is crazy. So that's kind of where I am with it. They need to come out and next game they play, if that was to happen again, like retaliate. There needs to be some retaliation. And I know it shouldn't come from her. It should come from the people around her.
It's funny because Angel Reese had made comments previously on about a week or so ago, and she took a hard foul against the Connecticut Sun, and I felt that she was referencing Caitlin Clark and all of that, saying like, it's not because I'm a rookie, it's because I'm a player in this league, and I bring that sort of stuff on. That may be fine and all as you're battling under the hoop, but this was a blatant, direct, cheap shot, hip check that may not have been as violent as something that you could get under the hoop, but it sure seemed about 10 times more blatant. And then to have Chennedy Carter refuse to answer any questions about it tells you all you need to know. Like that's of this is there is jealousy. There may be hate's a pretty strong word, so I don't want to say that, but there is extreme animosity, and then it was magnified. I felt like the story actually, and some people were on it earlier, but the story really took the turn to the point of that you point out of where are her teammates.
Right.
Aaliyah Boston did not sprint to get into Chennedy Carter's face as Caitlin Clark was sitting on the ground, and we've seen some of this stuff before of other teammates maybe not being there, and that's what then tells you that it is Caitlin Clark against everybody, because it even seems that some of her own teammates resent what she has brought to the league, and she talks trash. She does. She'll she'll give you a little of this or that, but none of that is warranted to the level of I think what she's received so far.
Yeah, the trash talking is part of the game. There are a lot of people that talk trash, men's and women's sports, right? But a lot of the times, when you can't do anything to combat the game and combat what they can do on the court, it resorts to being physical. It resorts to doing the things that don't really win you games.
Sure.
So it becomes not nonsensical when it comes to that stuff.
That's the other part of it, is to be quite honest, it's not like she's tearing the league up.
Right. No.
Where so that's where that's the other layer to this, is if she was scoring 32 a game and no one was stopping her, That's one thing. She had 11 points yesterday.
Exactly.
And maybe there would be an argument of, you try to cut off the head of the snake, because the ball's in her hand a lot. The offense starts with her. Then why isn't it happening around, other spots in the WNBA? Why isn't it happening with other players? Why is Angel Reese being hugged by her veterans and vice versa when Caitlin Clark is lying on the ground or hard foul is committed, yet no one will help up Caitlin Clark on her own team? Like, there's Angel Reese is obviously fit in well with her teammates. I look at Caitlin Clark's teammate at Iowa, Kate Martin, in fitting in with the Las Vegas Aces. Like, you see this all the time, and granted, she doesn't have the star power that Caitlin Clark has, but that's what it is. It's jealousy, and if the WNBA really wants to do something about it, I think you have to start suspending players. And I thought it was that the WNBA needs to do something to make it easier on Caitlin Clark, because I think then you're rigging the system.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be fair. But you have to stand up for your members. You have to stand up for your players. And if Chennedy Carter was docked a game check because of a suspension, she makes $64,000 this season for the Chicago Sky. You dock her a paycheck, it's $1,500. Mm-hmm. That's what it would be. Now, again, if you're only making $64,000 in the season and you're playing 41 games, that's a pretty big deal. I don't think that you'd be seeing cheap shots anymore. I think it's time for not only is it the players, maybe the other players in the league, but I think the league now has to step in and do something about this, because it's really going to hurt your bottom line, which was another theme that I ended up seeing coming out last night and hearing from a bunch of people of like, hey, I watch the WNBA. If this stuff keeps on going, I'm not going to watch it anymore.
Yeah, I think people are getting fed up with it. I do want to switch it up for 1 second and throw this at you though, Dan. I really want to know if Caitlin Clark feels so alienated right now that she's not allowing or interjecting herself in the locker room in a way that she should. And I'm just throwing this out there as a spin for why her teammates aren't showing up. Hopefully having some type of levity around the situation where is she doing everything that she can to fit in that locker room and give herself that grace with her teammates because she's already felt alienated. I want to know if there's another layer to that story, right? Like, because she doesn't feel loved, she doesn't feel, brought in with open arms. Is she eliminating herself from that locker room and putting herself in the corner where she is alone or standing alone in these fights? Because that would be another question, because if it's not, then it's blatantly just it's just a terrible, terrible place to be in for. And I would like to know that question,
I think that you need a veteran to bring them in that sort of way and to help show the ropes.
Exactly.
And you haven't seen that. Again, I don't know what goes on behind those closed doors. We saw a little interaction when Caitlin Clark had sprained her ankle and she was late from her press conference, and one of the players was kind of giving her the business, but we don't know that. It surely appears that her and Aaliyah Boston are not the greatest of pals.
Right.
If Aaliyah Boston isn't running to her aid, and I just have even felt that in interactions and seeing and watching the game where, because she was the number 1 overall pick the previous year, and this is heck. Caitlin Clark knocked South Carolina out of the NCAA tournament and gave Aaliyah Boston her, in her final game, that loss in the Final Four. So there could be animosity.
Right.
I told you beforehand, it's been 30 years since I've played any high school sports, but if I saw some of the guys that I played against, I would not be like, hey man, what's up? There still would be animosity towards that. And I think that's the case with Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying that she's absolved of any of this.
No, for sure.
I just think it's difficult for a rookie and everything that she has brought in to come in and try to, be one of the girls. I don't know if that's, I think it's on the veterans to be able to provide an atmosphere where she feels welcomed. Maybe not favoritism of the other league, but I think it's on the other veterans to be able to do something like that.
I agree. Yeah, it happens in every sport where you have a veteran. I mean, speaking to myself in particular, right? I mean, I'm not the same gravitas as a Caitlin Clark coming in, and not trying to put myself on that level either. But you come into a situation where I come into the Jets, and I have a veteran like that. The way you're speaking of somebody should be able to be there for Caitlin Clark. I had Curtis Martin, and he was there, and he just taught me the ropes, taught me how not to do certain things, how to put myself, right in that locker room with the guys and be one of the guys to start, because you have to have that. Doesn't matter where you end up, doesn't matter how good you are as a rookie, doesn't matter, at the end of the day, you might be the player of the year in that league. But if you don't win over your locker room guys and let them know that you're in this with them, it's going to be a problem. And so that's why I asked that question about, is she giving herself that grace and putting herself in a situation to, be humbled and be humble and be in a situation where these girls feels like she's one of them as well.
And that would only be one part of the story, because the other 11 teams in the league are not in that locker room.
100%.
So it would be, this is why her teammates aren't coming to her defense.
Yes.
Well, then why does every single team have a beef with her?
Yeah.
Seattle Storm, LA Sparks. Obviously, we knew the Chicago Sky game was going to be of interest because of the Angel Reese drama. And it's really difficult to believe. And I'm, by the way, before we wrap this up, I do want to get the thoughts of our crew here, because I think that there's so many different tentacles to this story. But the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark drama has gone on for the last couple of years, for the last, year plus, because of their matchups in the NCAA tournament and the title game a little more than a year ago and Elite Eight this time around. But, Angel Reese, in losing that game against Iowa, ends up playing the victim and says, people have no idea what I've gone through. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, to try to shed a different light on who you are, it sure seems like it's the same old Angel Reese as before if you're celebrating someone's downfall.
Right.
Isaac Lowenkron is at the news desk. What is your takeaway from the actions that we saw in that Fever Sky game yesterday?
I think this is the greatest thing ever, and I am all here for it, because we are a national radio show in the middle of the NBA playoffs, albeit between the conference finals and the finals. But the lead story, and it's a great, delicious story, is the WNBA. Now, when was the last time that the WNBA has been a lead story on national sports talk radio before this year? So I think it's great for the WNBA. I mean, controversy is still publicity.
Sure.
So I hope this WWE-like drama continues throughout the season, and I'll bet you the people in the league office, while they can't say it publicly, are silently high-fiving each other and say, hey, let's continue this stuff, because it's great theater, and I'm here for it.
If they would take my route, it would be right in the face of what Isaac is saying. If you start suspending players for their actions, no one's going to want to be missing those game checks, so that would probably curtail what Isaac is loving about the WWE NBA. Or
there you go.
However you want to place it. I will say this, and I want Bo and Chris to weigh in as well. I said yesterday that there's always an initiation period, rite of passage, as you talked about.
Yeah.
And when you look at the NBA, you talk about the Pistons and what the Pistons did, and Bill Laimbeer, and 30 years after the fact, Bill Laimbeer still doesn't have any remorse, or 35 years from the hard fouls that he delivered the Boston Celtics or Michael Jordan or anybody else. That is who they were. But that's one team trying to find an identity in a world where there is a Jordan, there is a Magic, there is a Bird.
For sure, yeah.
This is an entire league against one player, which I think makes it a little bit different. Bo Benson.
I think it's good, honestly, for the WNBA. I saw a few tweets that were like, this is, you want to be a league like the NBA. Well, this is part of the NBA, so this should be in WNBA. Her teammates need to look out for her. I hope that what comes of this mostly is better audio equipment for the post-game press conferences so that we can actually hear some of the sound that comes out of it.
I think they set up shop in a locker room.
Yeah.
That's where the Sky...
We gotta get into the actual press conference rooms, get these ladies some microphones.
At least the Fever give you a podium, but truly they put up a table, because you could see a cubby or a locker on one of the camera angles next to Chennedy Carter, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, this is you're in an NBA arena, you can't set it up in a way where you have a podium. The Fever have their own podium, it's set up, and But to his point, also, then a lot of the video we see is from the reporter on the side, not the straight-on shot that's plugged in with clear audio.
And like, to echo what Isaac said, like, I love that we're talking about the WNBA as a father of a daughter. Like, it's cool that she's going to be able to grow up and hopefully have this league on days where she can sit down and we can watch the games together. It's cool to have that. So
Yes.
I'm glad for it.
Chris Perfett?
So I have two sisters. Both of them played field hockey. The younger of the two, a lot more field hockey, to the point where when offered to play women's lacrosse, she said no because she can't check anyone. She likes violence. So seeing the WNBA embracing the hits and everything, something that I think, I find it fascinating kind of what we do in that past you talk about, the Bill Laimbeer past, the past of physical men's basketball is so valorized and romanticized by certain sports fans out there, but this becomes an issue. No, I love the physicality of it. I think maybe, her teammates do probably need to have her back a little bit more, but to Ilo's point, we're talking about it, and it may look ugly at points, but it amplifies the drama of what we are watching, and that sells sport more than anything else.
If Caitlin Clark takes a hit and tears a ligament in her knee because somebody wanted to take a cheap shot, how's that good for the game?
Yeah, it won't be good for their product. And let me rephrase something I said earlier. We said something about those girls. I want to say those women. They are women, so let's make sure we put that out there. But no, if she gets hurt and you take away the golden goose, then of course that league will be in shambles again, and so you don't want that.
And the other part is I understand like the physicality of it, but nobody else is taking shots like that. Angel Reese did take the hard foul. I admit that. I do feel that action is different on the block around the hoop than it is when you're just in the backcourt trying to inbound something. That's exactly what ended up happening. And Angel Reese's shot was probably more vicious than what Caitlin Clark took yesterday, but it just felt that yesterday's shot was so unnecessary and was so targeted that the foul on Angel Reese could have actually have been any power forward or center on the Chicago Sky in that aspect.
For sure.